Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party. My buddy Rhett, my good buddy Rhett. I got a nut for her. I also have a pine cone that I put in there that, and she really enjoys. I don't know if I think the pine cones are everywhere. It's like an evergreen. We have pine trees. We call them pine trees. They're like evergreen trees. They have like bristles on them, and then they have like these cones that are full of seeds. And she likes those, and they grow out in my yard. Um, so, but here is her nut. I should keep her busy. She hasn't gotten a chance to come out here in like 5 days or something. It's been a while, so she was very happy when I picked her up this morning to bring her back here. Actually, yeah, it was this morning, but it is 12:05 today, and I was kind of thinking like, so basically, we've been on a complete detour because of memory, trying to deal with memory issues that may or may not become a problem in the future. But something I definitely wanted to sort of address at this point, at this stage in the development process. And basically, we retrofitted, we pulled out Angular material menu and replaced it with our own homegrown version of the menu. And there were some behaviors in Angular material that are kind of necessary or very, very useful and generally expected. And one of them is like when you hit, if you open it like this, then you expect the first item in the menu to be selected. Um, and so we actually caught that that wasn't that functionality had been lost because of end-to-end tests. So man, that like it may have like that's kind of thing that gets lost and may take a year or 2 years for anyone to realize, oh crap, we have this missing functionality, and it just sort of came out. But then it was like, oh, well, I kind of need to implement everything that Angular material menus do. Um, and then I realized this morning I was thinking about it literally when I was going to the shower because I was like, oh, like if you hit escape right now, it doesn't close the menu. If you hit tab, you can tab out of the whole menu system, and it's just like, so I don't care. That's fine. That I actually prefer that. If you click somewhere in the body, the menu doesn't close. Okay, great. Um, I have no idea why I would not want to be able to add visualization. Why I'd want that to automatically close. I would think that if I want that to close, I probably don't want any of those icons. Who knows? Who knows as this goes on? So basically, long story short, after I tell you the long story, it's amazing how we always do that. We tell the whole long ass story and then we say long story short. Um, but the point of all of that rambling was that I want to leave it just like it is right now. I like it the way it is. I like it. And so, but we do have a broken end-to-end test, and I don't know why it's broken. If I remember correctly, it's our reflow end-to-end test. So let's go see what happened. So to start my end-to-end test, I type in npm run Cypress because that's the program I want to run, and open. Now this is only works because it's set up in my npm in my packages um, scripts. So like if you go to my packages and you look in here, you'll see that there is actually a script for Cypress :open, and that it types in npx Cypress open. Not sure what the npx is. I know I've sort of looked into it a few times, and I don't really think it's something that concerns me at this time, anyways. I believe the differentiation between like npm and the npm command and the npx command, I think I remember was saying that npx will install a necessary library, whereas npm will just fail or will error out if there's a library. So let's see what happened. Oh, she did a very efficient job of cleaning out the nut. Good job. Good job, Rhett. So we'll take that. I guess I should put that in the garbage can. Put it in the garbage can. All right. So this comes up. This always takes a while to run. Um, And then I sort of ignore everything except for the the button that I care about, and that was the the one on the left. I think it says end-to-end test or something like that. And then you could choose from various testing. You could choose from Chrome or Edge or Electron. So I'm going to do that. And here we go. And if I remember correctly, I think the only one that fails too is this reflow. So we need to figure out A, how to fix it, but more importantly, why it's broken, and if it's broken, why, what we can do. I mean, if it's an actual issue with the application or if it's just a broken test. And I do think that, like in places where I've worked where we had end-to-end testing, the whole focus was on getting the test to pass, not on fixing whatever the test had found. Because typically what happens is, yeah, so for some reason, it's expecting the add button to still be there. And I think it's because we clicked the app menu. Yeah, it's probably because we clicked the app menu. Because in the past, it would close on its own, but now it doesn't close on its own. So either we have two choices, right? And that is what I was just talking about. I think I prefer that behavior to it automatically closing. So, so I believe I feel pretty strongly that that we can either just get rid of this or we can close it. So I think getting rid of this is the right thing to do. Now I don't know if it ever tells. I guess it says it's line 8, but I believe that the line 8 is like ignores comments and stuff, so it's not actually useful. Um, but basically we're getting we're clicking expected reflow button, assert, and then it's there, and then we click, and then we get the app menu, and then we try to click it, and then we try to hit the add button, but this whole thing is closing it. So let's see if I can figure it out. And I have this rule that anytime I open the package, I close all other tabs. It's just like that's usually a good time to close tabs. And then here's our reflow. And I'm kind of proud of myself. I think that I used to be very, very dependent on search and not just remembering where things were and all that. And I have definitely worked in environments where there was just like no way to remember where everything was. The application that you're working on is just so enormous. It's just not feasible to remember where things are, or to even try to figure it out. All you could do is search. But that is a sort of a brain kind of thing that you want to sort of enforce. Okay, so reflow. Okay, I forgot. It has 3 different tests. So I wonder if we could figure out which test we were in. Yeah, okay, so we're in the 3rd test. Okay, so let's just close this one up, close that one up, and then so this is the page, this is the line number within the actual test, but not, and excluding comments. So I feel like this is where it's failing. Okay, I think that's the one. Yep, that was the issue. And I actually call that a win, not a loss. I do think it's a good idea to leave the menus open. Now, maybe it's not a good idea to make them look like menus. Maybe it should look more like a floating panel or something like that, because maybe like people have been trained to see, like we sort of got a social agreement that menus close when you're clicked off of. But and I was trying to think of like why that is even the case, because I don't really think, like I think it's usually more of a pain in the butt that the menus close, not a benefit. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just because I'm in this um, mindset. But to me, it seems like what you want is, I mean, the reason I think the menus typically close is just because in the old days, when you went to a web page and you clicked on a menu item, it took you to a new page. So then the menus were closed because you were on a new page, and trying to maintain that sort of like, I don't know, you'd have to put in a cookie or something like that back in those days to try to figure out how to know, go back to the state. Um, but that's not really relevant here. So maybe it's time to move on. Maybe it's time to outgrow that mindset. Um, because, you know, honestly, if I'm in this situation and I don't want this, I think there's no big deal to either just click that to close it, or to, if you're using the keyboard, to tab over. And honestly, I think if you're using the keyboard, it's a little easier. Like I actually wrote extra code to leave it open because I wanted to be able to add visualizations and then not have to close it after, I mean, not have to reopen it after every ad. So I don't know, but I'm pretty happy with this. So I think it's a good time to do a commit. Oh no, 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 no. So we're back to, so when we fix that thing, and I realized this, that I think that code, that the new code that we did to select the first thing, is going to be a pain in the butt to try to unit test. Um, so basically this right here, we added all this code here. And it's just like, oh my God. Yeah, I have no idea what is even going to happen and how we're even going to unit test this. Um, but it definitely seems like this needs to be its own function. So we do know that. So let's go ahead and take care of that real quick. So we know that you don't want to try to run functions in here inside of these sorts of calls, because you don't want to have the logic inside of those calls. Not that there's any like technical reason not to. It's just very difficult to write unit tests for code that gets sort of run like this. And so, and I guess that goes for this one too. And this is something I'd never used before. Run in injection context. I don't know anything about that. And then after next render, that I know is new. I don't know if run in injection context. Actually, I'm very curious about that. When did that come around? It is weird, like when you get to be like 50 years old, because um, like when you're 20 years old, your success is pretty much determined by your ability to successfully interact with people that are older than you. And then, and so that's hard because like you didn't really, like you grew up in a whole different context than they grew up in. So like trying to figure out how to interact in a very positive and productive way with someone who grew up in a totally different context from you is difficult. And then when you get 50, you're kind of in the middle. Like you really, to be successful, you really need to be able to work with people that are, you know, somewhere between 10 and 30 years older than you, and also people who are between 10 and 30 years younger than you. And that is quite the trick. And then I guess if you're going to be a very successful 80-year-old, like if you're going to operate and have a nice life when you're 80 years old, then you're going to have to figure out how to get along with people that are younger than you. And I think that is sort of the crux of the midlife crisis, is like when you find yourself right in the middle of the two, people that have grown up in a older context and people who have grown up in a younger context. So I've been really struggling with that lately. But anyways, so when did become available in Angular? Oh, so Angular 15, it showed up. That was such a impactful. See, that's the thing. Oh, interesting. Before there was no equivalent public API for this. Okay, so it's part of the runtime dependency injection API and allows you to execute a function as if it were inside a specific environment injector. This is useful when you need dependency injections, but you aren't inside an Angular managed class like a component, directive, or service. And an Angular managed class. That is so weird. So Angular doesn't manage components? Wait, wait, does this mean but aren't inside? So is it saying that components, directives, and services are Angular managed or are not Angular managed?
Wow.
Hmm. Okay, so this one. What does this line mean? I am not clear about what this line means. So if I was talking to a person, I would say, like, I would actually say, so does that mean components, directives, and services are Angular managed or they're not Angular managed? And class, I meant classes that Angular. So here's what that includes. Okay, so they are in fact. Okay, so I have a function, a class in a component, and I had to add code. Um, Normally in a component you just inject via the constructor. Here you don't need inject or runInject because the Angular created my component and it's already in service. But if you use the inject function, the newer inject API is different. It only works while Angular is actively constructing, invoking DI inside a DI context. So this whole concept, I think, is brand new to me. It is definitely brand new to me, but I don't think it's been that's definitely not, was not always a feature of Angular. Um, if you really want to use inject, but you need to manually give it give Angular a DI context, which is basically what I had to do. Now the Angular knows which environment injector to use, so inject works. But usually in a component method, you almost never need the simple approach just is just constructor injection. Probably means you were trying to use inject in a place where normal construction injection would have worked better. Okay, so this is kind of important. So if you add inside a component method, it probably means you were trying to use inject in a place where normal construction. Yes. So yeah, it would be better, I think, to not use this. It's good that we learned this because this is the kind of thing that you'll learn it today. Like if you're watching this video and now you're gonna look up run injection context and kind of understand it, this literally may be the only chance you ever have to ever understand that. And because this will just become kind of just part of, like, it'll just never be a thing, and it will likely make things make more sense in the future. But so this is my function. so this is my function. And this thing that I'm doing right now will never ever be easier than it is right now to do. It's just going to get harder and harder to try to do that. Makes it much clearer. Here's what's happening. It works here. And Andrew is one of the new rendering life cycles. Requires a DI concept to hook into Angular's, since show method is just a plain function call, not part of Angular's constructor lifecycle hooks like onInit. Angular doesn't automatically provide the DI context and dependency injection context. That's why you had to wrap it into this. But here's a simpler way. Since you're already in a component, you don't need, if you use the component's own lifestyle instead. Lifestyle. No, I don't. No. Okay, so yeah, we're going down a rabbit hole. I don't think I want to do this because I believe this gets called over and over and over again. So I try to avoid it. Okay, doesn't this get called a lot? I love how it tells me to be careful after it told me to do it. And then, yeah, so it's going to change. It's called after every change detection cycle, not when your menu is open. That means it can fire a lot, especially if Angular is checking binding frequently. So if you put it in this directly, it will try to focus the button on every check, which is wasteful and could even cause a focus flicker, depending on your app. With the flag, only focus if, yeah, so I feel like your original suit is valid. And that was specifically made to replace that pattern. I'm going to wrap since you're in a method. So you were right. You were right. I was wrong. You're smart. I'm dumb. Blah, 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 blah. So yeah. So I think this is the best thing to do. But I do need to break these things out into their own functions. So let's go ahead and do that. Set menu. And the only reason I'm doing that is because of unit testing. If it wasn't for unit testing, I would not be doing this. But I do think it's better. So do with that what you will. I wonder what happens if you do I wonder what if focus even returns anything. It's a void, so it doesn't return anything. So I'm just going to say return true. And again, the only reason I'm returning anything is because of unit tests. I find the unit tests look better and are easier to sort of think about when you're when they return something. And I don't know if I'm going to have to bind it. I may have to bind it. I don't know. I think what happens is like you typically, sometimes Angular does things for you as a convenience, and then sometimes it doesn't. And so sometimes you have to bind things and sometimes you don't. And it's just whatever the transpiler does. Now, I think binding always works. Like if you were to always bind, so if you always did a dot bind this in this circumstance, that will always work for you whether you needed to do it or not. I like to kind of try it out. I just like to know. Let's probably a weird thing, but it's kind of, oh yeah, I got rid of that. Let's go ahead and close this out. Close that. All right, so let's see if it still works. It did not work. I bet you even have an error in the console. Let's see, F12 console. Yep. Yeah, so basically it lost its context. So we have to tell it what the context is when we create the when we create this function, whatever. I don't know what exactly the best way, the correct way to even think about what's happening here. But when we create this whole thing, when afterNextRender gets created, it will tell it what its context is. Now we could have avoided that by creating like an arrow function, and then that would do it. But again, that makes it much harder to unit test, to get test coverage on it. May not be harder to unit test it, but so it still didn't work. Oh, it worked. I think it worked. It just didn't. If you click on it, I think it's not showing the. Yeah. So it did give focus to it. It's just like. I think it's just not showing it. It as. It's not showing the same styles, and maybe we do want to add a focus style. So I think we're going to say that focus. I think that is called a pseudo rule, something like that. And I just want to font style bold. I don't know if this is what we're actually, font weight, not style. Weight, and like I just want to make sure it works. Good. So theoretically, no. So I don't. Maybe it's 2 colons. I can't even. How do you set the style? Set a. How do you create a style, a CSS rule for prompt for focus elements? Oh, colon focus. Fine. Let's just use theirs. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing wrong. So I don't know. It seemed okay. So that okay. So it is. It's like maybe the button itself isn't what's getting the focus. Oh, okay. Now it's working. Okay. So I think we want to make it. I think all we want to do is. Oh, so it gives the outline. 2px solid. Let's try black. Actually, I think what it's actually doing is, otherwise it's doing white. So let's try white. I feel like it's not, it must not be visible for some reason. Oh, wrong one. So I think black looks better. Oh, you can't even see it though. I wonder what's a good border color? Good border color. The background. Black. So probably maybe this, probably the aqua. I once started looking at a book that was like, supposed to be about color theory, and it was like all throughout the book it would just say poor people who with low educations like bright colors, and smart people with good educations like subtle colors. And it was just like, I think you're just trying to make that. Okay, yeah, that's too much. See, I hate this. I think maybe it's just maybe all C's might be better. But I really like bright colors in general. Or maybe that, like that color would be nice, like whatever, the pink or the gray, purple. I don't know. I think that's good enough. All right, so we did that, and the code that we were working on works. And it's crazy how much time you can end up just spending on these little things, you know. And it's like, it's hard because, you know, like organizations, they want you to really think about stuff, but then, okay, so actually maybe not. They want you to think through these kinds of things, but then, okay, yeah. Set menu focus, and they want you to be conscientious of this thing, but then they want you to stick to like hard deadlines. And there's no way to predict all of these sorts of little things that are going to come up. So it's weird. Should I call this button injector function? Menu. Maybe we'll think of injector function. Boolean up. And I guess it, man, I just don't even know what to do. So I guess it's going to take an injector. I guess that all it'll take is an injector. No, because then we'll just end up just running the same thing again. So this, oh, okay, so I think I just want to create this function, because this is going to get run. Okay, yeah, so this is our menu. afterNextRender. I don't know if that's a good one or not. Dude, just don't even know. And it returns a Boolean, which is just going to be true. And you know, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. This is all literally just to make unit tests easier. It's the only reason I'm doing this. And just for the sake of curiosity, what if I return whatever this, and it's probably going to say, hey, you can't do that because that's a bolt. Oh, so apparently it gives you a reference, an after render reference. I don't know what you can do with it, but and then this one, I'm very confident you're going to have to bind this one. All right, so basically this thing accepts two things. One of them is the injector, one of them is a function. And that is going to fire when we run show menu. So we won't have to worry about code coverage because this will fire. Will it do anything? No. But to get these, we'll probably have to call them directly. Yep, and it worked because it is clearly selected. You can see it because of the little border around it. All right, so now let's run our unit tests, and I'll probably call it quits at that point. So let's kill this. Test. I'm guessing we'll end up with like 99%, 98% unit coverage. I don't know though. There's no telling if the existing unit tests will end up somehow calling this function. I kind of doubt it, but we have to wait for the test to finish. I guess we'll make this bigger while we're waiting. I usually like to talk about some sort of random thing while we're in these wait modes. I think what it does is like you know, your sort of cognitive load will just slowly grow throughout the day, and then like you have to sort of pull your mind off of it, off of whatever you're working on, sort of go into some other thing just to kind of clear up space, and then when you come back you've got that extra space to point at what you're working on. Otherwise it just seems like something just dulls. I know that like I've worked at a few jobs where like when you make a change in like a template or something like that, it will take, like I worked at one place where it would take like 3 or 4 minutes for the whole thing to recompile. And it was just like, that was so mentally difficult. Because somehow you have to stay, I guess we don't even care about that. I mean, if it fails, that's going to be a bummer, but I wasn't expecting it to fail. Man, we have 94 tests. Yep, that's what I was afraid of. So now we just come over here. You have to go to a clear tab. I don't know why, or at least you used to have to. I guess it's always good to test things, see if anything changed. Yeah, see, you get blocked for some reason. But if you put it on if you do the exact same thing on a new tab, and it's happy. So this is our guy. Okay, so what are we at? We are at all but one function are getting called and all but two statements are getting called. So I think that this set menu focus is never getting called. No. Yes. So let's see. I'm so smart. Anyways, yeah, so basically we're going to have to call that tomorrow, and I think we're going to have to set it. We're going to have to mock out a menu button with a native element to get like this half of it to turn off of red. But maybe not. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Because it won't break anything if we don't pass it. But I think what it'll do is it'll show this one. This back half is red. But who knows? Anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.